Hi guys, welcome to How to Paint the Ultramarine Part 2. So as you can see guys, the model has been coated in a gloss varnish ready for pin washing. The product I used for glass washing, for the gloss, was this stuff guys. Pledge multi-surface wax, and it's called Clear. I'll revert back to my computer in a moment to show you a good website which explains this product in fine detail and where you get it around the world. A lot of places it's called Future. In the UK purposes it's the Pledge Wax Multi-Surface, and it's really good stuff. And obviously when you're using your airbrush you don't need to pre-thin it. To clean your airbrush out, I would highly recommend for you to pick up some ammonia, because ammonia is the stuff that actually strips it back down. So I'll revert to the show you the website now guys. Welcome to Swanny's Models, or Swanny's Models. Just type in www.swannysmodels.com and you'll come to this page. And if I scroll down to the bottom, come to these sections. The one we're looking for is tools and tips, and here it is. Click on, obviously, to the link, and here's all you need to know. In every single country it comes in and explains quite cool uses about it as well, how you can use it for different purposes, like adding food colouring to the product, and you can paint it onto your canopies of your planes, your ships, etc. And it's even got a quite cool thing about thinning your paints down, as some of us know it as window lean or glass text. I'm going to mix up a blue black wash. So I'm using a dark blue, which is similar to this colour, and a few drops of black. You could probably use black if you want to guys. We'll see how this goes now. And what I'm thinning it down with, I'm just using just normal water guys. This is distilled water. You don't have to use distilled water, but it just helps it along a little bit, to be honest guys. So for this purpose now guys, I'm just going to be carefully pin washing the creases of where underneath everything, which you know where it shines on, just like so. If you have a little bit of spill, some people use, like Les does, is he uses oils for this purpose, which works really fine. But I find with the oils, it's a bit like Marmite. You either love it or hate it, to be honest guys. I'm not much of a lover of it for some reason. I think it's just due to my oil paints, to be honest guys. It's it takes a little bit longer to dry, and I wait a hell of a lot longer. Usually I usually use a lot of thinner brush for this purpose. This one's a 0, but sometimes I usually use something like a what's this one? I think this is a quadruple 0, 4-0 brush. Yeah, this is a 4-0 brush. Actually, I might use that now, because obviously some people just slap it over and just let it soak in and then clean up the rest. I personally don't like that. I like to get it spot on, and just it's less time and hassle cleaning it up. So you don't only see me pin washing all this at the present moment, guys, so I'll get back to you now. So guys, as you can see now, all the areas now have been pinned washed I mean, and you can see it looks a lot better now. If you've got any residue or spills from the pin wash, some of the top tips I use, I do tend to use this Tamiya thinner because it's really good stuff. I use a old makeup sponge which I've required off the missus, aka pinched. So if you're going to lay around, have a look in your girlfriend's, your sister's, your mother's makeup, preferably one not used, and pick one of these up. Or you can actually normal cotton buds. These days on some model websites you can have the tapered cotton buds, you know, like a bullet shape, which are very cool. So what I done, I actually sort of damped this down, dipped it into the thinner, damped it down, and I just very carefully just wiped over the recesses where I think I might have spilt some. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to put a satin or matte varnish over the top of this now, because obviously he's got a gloss coat, and I'll be back now. So guys, you can use multiple types of satin and matte varnish, like from the Vallejo series, or any other series, to be honest guys, from Games Workshop, and just obviously thin them down. But one I use quite a lot of, I use a art shop acrylic satin varnish, which is the Galleria from Winston & Newton, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of it in here. And personally I haven't used the matte varnish yet, but I'll probably pick some of that up, and I just basically put it into my palette. I thin it down with a bit of distilled water, and I just load it up into my airbrush. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give it 1 or 2 coats depending on the coverage, and we'll take it from there, guys. So that's the first coat done. I'm going to leave that to dry a second. I might put the hairdryer on it, and I'll probably do the second coat if it needs a second coat, and I'll be back now, guys. What I'm going to do now, obviously one of my subscribers wanted to know how I painted the white helmet, so for this purpose now I'm going to mask the area off around the head. 90% of the time, as I said before, I usually paint the head, the backpack, and sometimes the gun separate. To get the position of the gun, sometimes I use a very small amount of super glue just to tack it in place, then obviously you can easily just snap it back off, because it's just easier to get underneath the chest piece in front, obviously if you're painting like the Aquila side or etc. So for this purpose now guys, you can use different types of products out there, but what I'm using at the present moment, which is blue tack. Sometimes blue tack can be a little bit too sticky, but because it's been coated with a satin varnish, it should be okay, to be honest guys. So what I'm going to do now is to make a little hole on top, and I'm going to start. Doesn't have to be been done perfect, as long as there's all the area you are painting. As you can see, it's got like a almost nice and tidy. So I'm going to use the airbrush now. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. And I'm going to start doing the helmet. So there you go guys, as you can see it's all painted nice and white. So I'm going to wait for that to dry off guys, properly, before I remove the blue tack. So get back to you now guys. Right guys, and now for the podgy bit for me trying to paint this with the camera in front of me. As you can see, the helmet's been painted white, slightly a little bit of overspray on the top, but that's not concerning me that much. So how I done the colour scheme with the white helmet, well, the colours I used was a white, which is the Vallejo white. I used a medium sea grey, which is this colour. And more importantly, I used the Vallejo dark grey. You can use obviously any greys you want guys, as long as it's a dark, medium, and obviously the white is going to be the highlight of the helmet. I've obviously thinned the paint down to a 1:1 mix of, I use a special mix of, you can use, I just thin it down with water, it just works just the same guys. I do a lot of times with water, but obviously my experience is when I tend to use the Vallejo paints, they dry out a little bit faster than other paints. So what I did, I used I got a special mix by here of Flow Improver and retarder, with obviously mixed with water, so it just helps it along a little bit more. So what we're going to do now guys, I hope this works out fine. I tend to use my thumb for some reasons a lot, just to get the excess off, and I'm going to slightly build up the back area and the side cheeks like so. I'm going to clean my brush off now, and I'm just going to slightly wet blend it back in. Take away the top colour like so. And I'm going to use a bit of the dark. Once again, I'm rubbing on my thumb, take off the excess, and as you can see now, the colour's starting to build up a lot. You can use the reason why I'm using this mid-tone colour is for you lot to perfectly honest guys, because it just makes it a lot easier if you tend to use those colours. But I personally like to use just the white and the dark together. I'm just using this one just to help you out guys, to be honest. So I'm using a little bit of white by here now, just touching up pieces. A bit more dark. A bit more dark again. See how I've slipped by there, but that doesn't concern me that much because that part's going to be shadowed anyway. It's going to be heavily shadowed, this one is. Yeah, you can do this with an airbrush by all means, but for some of the people obviously have not got airbrushes, so once again, if you see what I just done, I just dipped my paintbrush in water, I just wiped it off so the paintbrush is clean. I've just gone back over the grey area, just blended in backward strokes towards the paint. So I'm taking away the grey. And obviously when you done the sections like so, obviously sometimes you might have to wait for the paint to dry a little bit. Just for the second layer if needed. So obviously I can see the paint is still wet by this area guys. So what I'm going to do now, use the dark. See how much that is. Because the paint is watered down and it's still wet, it's easily to be removed. You all know how much of a pain in the arse trying to paint over wet is. If you just heard that just now, that was my phone. So I'm just using a bit of white, sort of like a wet blending technique. So I mix it, I'm doing a glaze technique and wet blending technique at the same time, sort of. So the paint is thinned down. You can see how thick that is now. I'm wetting the brush, rubbing it on my hand, and I'm just slightly moving that paint back and forth, rubbing on my thumb, just rubbing it back a bit more, and slowly build up the layers. As you can see underneath the cheek part by here, I'm going to create a shadow effect by here. Once again guys, you don't have to use greys. You can use any colours you want. This principle goes the same with any other colours. If you're using yellows, obviously you use browns. If you want a mud effect or more of a dirt effect, you can just use browns instead, rather than using greys. So, I personally just like the grey effect. Some people even use blues, which I've used in the past, like shadow grey always works well with white. So as you can see by there now guys, slightly coming along. I'm rubbing some of it off with my thumb. You can see certain parts. I do apologise if the model's moving back and forth, but as you all know guys, this is the only first tutorial I've probably done for painting, and obviously after a few more I will be getting better and better and trying to perfect a proper technique on how to do these video tutorials for you guys. So this is a learning process for me and you guys at the same time. So once again I'm going back over the area. I'm going to wet my brush, and once again I'm going to blend this grey back in. And if you wanted to, you can use a bit of white. Once again I'm going to dab on my finger, and I'm just going to merge the white in with the grey. Because this is awful awkward for me guys, because I've got a camera in front of me to do. At least you know the basic principles of me applying the paint. It's getting a bit of dark grey. Now rub it on my thumb just to get the excess off. I'm going to slightly drag it down to the darkest areas of it. Clean the brush again with some water. As you can see, I'm not completely drying the brush out. I am just keeping it still wet so the white can blend in with the grey. Like so. Right guys, as you can see now, the helmet is finished. And we've also done the side pieces of the shoulder pad in white, just represent a Tyranid hunter. And I've used the same principle as I've used as the helmet. Painted more in white first, thin layers, because I don't want the white to clog up. Then over certain areas, then like the back of it, painted the dark grey, and then merged up to the middle grey, then to white. Then I wait for that to dry off afterwards. Then right on the edges of the white, I had to put white on right on the sides of the edges. I'll show you like so now. So basically, say the paint we loaded in white, just rub it on the side, on the way down, and it just highlights it up a little bit better. So the next stage now, the end of the last tutorial will be finishing off the basic highlighting, because as you can see now the hands need to be highlighted and certain top spots will be highlighted now guys. It'll be right at the top of the knee pads, the top of the arms, probably just the pieces of the feet by here, and what colour I'm going to use by there is going to be Space Wolf Grey. and obviously at the present moment I've painted this a dark grey, and I've given it a quick wash of black, and I will be highlighting this back up now with a mixture of greys and white, and obviously I'll be showing how I do the lens of the ultramarine as well, guys. So this is how it looks at the present moment, guys. Let's see if I turn the shoulder pad, but how the contrast is from dark to medium to bright. And once again, if you turn it upside down, you can see where the dark areas are. Turn up slowly, and white. Once again, last side, from dark, there's the medium colour, and obviously there's the bright colour. Obviously if people have got airbrushes, you can, instead of painting this like I've done, you can actually just still spray it as a grey colour, then use the airbrush at a 90-degree angle very lightly and spray on top, and then you can go back over with a thin layer of white and the grey just to touch up areas which the airbrush haven't picked up. So you can do it with an airbrush as well, but just for this purpose, guys, I've just done it obviously with a normal brush. It's not my best by the long shot, but better than nothing, isn't it, guys? So stay tuned to the next episode, and it'll be show you how eventually to finish it off. Thanks, guys.